original D-frame was an open-air design chassis from Inwin that took styling cues from trellis frame motorcycles. Inwin is back with a smaller version, the D-frame Mini. This time only accommodating mini ITX boards. It's a bit of a strange choice on Inwin's part, but we'll give you all an idea what it's like to be working with it.
The WD Red family just got bigger. Now compatible with 16-bay solutions and available in up to 6 terabyte capacities. Click to learn more.
First up, you will find in the box the D-frame Mini, of course, a manual, a cleaning cloth, and all the screws and P-clamps. Next up, a tour of the D-frame Mini. Like I mentioned earlier, the D-frame Mini has this aluminum trellis frame. It's available in black, orange, and red. It has smoked tempered glass side panels. One side gives you a glimpse into the internals, and the other shows off your cable management. At the top is a built-in knurled handle to make it easier for carrying. Now, even though it's aluminum, there's still some heft from the tempered glass, even without the system on the inside. It's a bit on the heavy side for a mini ITX case. We have a lot of shock absorption provided by these red bumpers. I mean, I wouldn't recommend tossing this rig all over the place, because after all, it still has glass side panels. These bumpers also allow users to put the Mini in almost any configuration, but more on that later. Up front, right here, we find a weirdly wobbly power button, a recessed reset button, 2 USB 3 ports, microphone port, headphone port, and a hard drive activity LED. At the back, we have where the power supply is mounted. Now you can either have the power supply in 2 configurations, either up top like we have ours, or it can be mounted at the bottom. Now, taking off the glass side panel, we have quite an interesting internal layout. First up, the motherboard is oriented so that the ports are facing up towards the handle. To the right, we have 3 hard drive bays that house either 3.5-inch drives or 2.5-inch drives. And underneath that, there's also an additional mounting point for another SSD. And to the left of the motherboard is a support shroud for your GPU of choice. Now, the D-frame can support cards up to 340 millimeters long. There's also cable management holes all throughout the case. And finally, we have this fan shroud for 2 120mm fans, or in our case, fans with a 240mm radiator. Now, for those of you wanting to cool your CPU with an air cooler, the D-frame does support coolers that are less than 165mm tall. Also, if any of you are working with coolers that require a motherboard backplate to be installed, make sure you install it first before you put it in, as the D-frame Mini doesn't actually have a CPU cutout. So what do I think of the D-frame Mini? Well, at first glance, it's a super cool looking open air chassis. There's no denying that. From the trellis frame to the glass side panels, it's a great case to show off to friends. But I would not buy this for my personal rig for a couple of reasons. First off, the open air design is really not for me. I would much prefer a closed environment. The overall building experience was my second problem with the case, specifically with cable management. The holes included on the chassis were just not big enough to get all the cables super tidy. And the P-clamps that are provided, well, you can only use those in 4 pre-existing threaded holes. There's not much choice there. And remember earlier when I said Inwin claims that you can place this case on all 6 of its sides? Well, it's actually not that many. It's more like 3. You can't have the top or front facing down, because how will you get access to all your ports? What happens if you have any Wi-Fi antennas or USB flash drives that are too long? And obviously you're not going to put the internals facing down, because who buys a case with a window just to have the exciting windowed part facing the floor? No one, that's who. But if you're someone who's looking for an ITX test bench and not a case for your personal rig, this changes things up. The hard drive trays have spring-loaded thumb screws that you can't lose, and there's lots of room for monstrous-sized power supplies, up to 220mm in length. And from what I've encountered with test benches, people use them so often, changing parts and whatnot, that it doesn't give dust bunnies a chance to settle in. So that's my conclusion. The D-frame Mini is a great test bench platform for ITX motherboards, but not so great as a case for your personal rig. What do you guys think? Am I wrong? Am I right? Is there a use for the D-frame Mini that you guys thought of that would make sense for this type of chassis? Leave a comment down below. That wraps it up for this episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this from NCIX. We'll see you later.